Okay, can you see the board? Okay, so today what I want to do is I first want to talk about 4 elements, okay? You might have heard like 5 element theory in acupuncture or in Chinese medicine, and there is indeed 5 elements, but we're going to talk about basic elements to determine personality. So this is a tool I'm going to teach you that just with the person's birth date, and when your client comes in, they do an intake form. Most therapists will have the client do the intake forms even before their initial appointment. But this is something that within a couple minutes you could do before you bring them into the room, and then you already have an idea if you want to use this as a tool, just to inform yourself and then of course to educate the client about themselves. So this is a tool of self-discovery. The elements we get from the astrology chart, and that's something that if you get the app or it's free online, you can do seriously in a matter of minutes. So this first you're going to do today, and you're going to see how accurate it is, and then you could do everybody in your family and know everything, and your friends and stuff like that. So it's a tool that you want to practice, and it's very, very easy. But this is basically, when we did personality theory, I spoke about all the different personality theories. Well, Jung spoke about different personality, traits. He was actually an astrologer. The thing is that Carl Jung was a student of Freud's. And when he broke away from Freud, they had different views on dream analysis. They had different views on different things. Jung created his own personality theory. But Jung was a psychiatrist, and he didn't want to be discredited, which is very common with these sort of spiritual metaphysical themes. So he basically, in his theory, hid metaphysics, astrology, energy medicine. Like, I was a friggin' champion, but he didn't want to say I'm a metaphysician or I'm an astrologer or I'm a psychic, that he created a whole theory with terms that basically use those tools. That's why I resonate so much with him, because all of my theories are rooted in metaphysics and spirit, and then I bring them to psychology. And he did the same thing, but he was sort of like an occult metaphysician. We now know that he wasn't so occult, but that's what happened. So this theory of his, that then these 2 women, I think it was a mother-daughter, Meyers, Briggs, took Jung's personality theory and created a personality assessment. This is a super famous assessment. It's called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. You can Google it and you can do it free. And there's 16 personality types. I'm going to go through those. And what's so cool is you could do the Myers-Briggs and you could do your element on your chart, and you're going to see that it's the same thing. Because it all comes from metaphysics and from energy and from the elements. So they took Jung, and I'm now taking you past Jung to call it astrology or nature or metaphysics, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing. So with 4 elements, you're going to be able to pretty much identify which Myers-Briggs type. And if you want, I highly recommend that you do the Myers-Briggs, you do the elements that I'm going to show you, and you see that they overlap. That's why I put they match up. Okay? So it's a quickie way. You can have your client do the Myers-Briggs, and then you can match it up with the elements that you see in their chart. So it's a cool sort of, crisscross confirmation. Okay, so these are terms that are used in the Myers-Briggs, and they sort of from Jung's theories, and I'm going to explain all that in a minute. Then I'm going to explain to you, which is where this will help you to live a symbolic life and work symbolically with your client, that according to the elements, and of course the missing elements, that's going to be a big thing. A couple weeks ago I talked to you about the missing element piece, is what illnesses they're going to get, what careers they're going to be drawn to, what diet, even Ayurveda talks about the elements and what diet the person should have. I spoke to you a couple weeks ago. I did that fairy tale unmet needs chakra and the elements. The unmet needs, I'll repeat that today. Learning style. If you're working with little kids like Yvette, and you want to maybe see young kids, and you know exactly their elements, you can understand why maybe they have ADD, and I'm not saying diagnosed, I'm talking about like hyperactivity or whatever, if they might have way too much air in the chart. it starts to make sense why that student has a certain learning style. And more importantly for you, why your learning style is the way that you learn. So this is the basic of the basic of the basics that then whoever wants to stay for astrology will build on that. But this I want everyone to learn because it's a tool for practice, for your own life, for the people in your life, and it gives a lot of information in a real simple step. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. So there are 5 elements indeed, but we're focused on 4. Okay, fire, earth, air, and water. So I'm going to tie in Psych, Jung, Meyers, Briggs, and astrology all in one today. So I first want to start with this. Anyone know the first sign of the zodiac? What? Okay, but the first sign of the 12, the first sign of the zodiac. The zodiac goes from Aries to Pisces. Okay, so Aries is the first sign. Are you an Aries? Okay, you have to have a lot of Aries or Mars or fire going on. So it'll be interesting when we do yours. So on Saturday was the spring equinox. The spring equinox is the Persian New Year, is the beginning of Passover, is the first day of Aries. This is a very big symbolic year for people that are like me that work in this realm. We did ceremony, we set intentions, I made a fire, we made a big deal out of it. Okay, the reason is it's considered the beginning of the year. So Passover for the Jews, the new year. Astrologically, the new year is Aries. Okay, so this is the way we're going to look at the elements. This is not the way that they are with the chakras. With the chakras, I told you it's earth, water, fire, air, and then ether. So it's a little different in the chakras, but we're talking about astrology here for a minute. Okay, that's why I put it in this order. Doesn't really matter at the end of the day the way you do it when you calculate, but that's the reason. So this is Aries. Then comes Taurus, and I'm writing this in case you don't know your sign element, so you have it. Gemini and Cancer. Then what happens? It repeats. That's it. The whole astrology wheel repeats. So you got Leo, you got Virgo, you got Libra, and you got Scorpio. Then what happens? It repeats. You got Sag, you got Capricorn, you got Aquarius, and you got Pisces. And there's your whole wheel. Every single person, we're only looking at your sun sign. Please understand, I've told you I don't do horoscope. Horoscope is just sun sign. We are doing comprehensive chart, but this, for this particular activity that we're doing today, and the elements will be your whole chart. But this is just your sun sign, so I put that here, okay? That's the symbol of the sun. I did a class a couple weeks ago and I explained that, what it meant symbolically and stuff like that, but that's the sign of the sun, which happens to go to Leo, okay? But everybody has a sun in their chart, okay? So the 3 fire signs, the 3 earth signs, the 3 air signs, and the 3 water signs. When you do the Myers-Briggs, because I started sort of writing down, you've got inspector, crafter, protector, artist, advocate. I started writing down the elements that are involved. So you can have a bunch of these that have a lot of air, a lot of earth. The sign is going to talk more about like the quality. So for instance, an Aries person is an initiator, fast, fiery, quick, trailblazer. Maybe angry, maybe violent, fast and furious, fizzled out quickly. Whereas a Sagittarius is a longer fire. It represents a torch versus a match of Aries. So they're all fire, but they have different qualities. So these Myers-Briggs also, you might have a lot of air, earth, fire, and water in your chart, that representation, but maybe when you do the Myers-Briggs, you are the architect and you're the leader, and you're like, oh, well, we have similar elements. Why did we get a different one? Because of the quality. That's a little later, deeper when we do astrology, but just so you know. So each one is a type of earth or a type of fire, a type of air, a type of water, but there are specific qualities. One of the things I'm going to teach you probably next week is something called the Decanates. So for instance, I'm a Pisces of the Scorpio decanate. Every Pisces is not the same. Every Aquarius is not the same. You could be an Aquarius, you can be an Aquarius Gemini, or you can be an Aquarius Libra. That quality is very, very different. This Myers-Briggs, without maybe knowing, was taking that into account. So we'll learn about the Decanates in another class astrologically. Today it's just the sun sign, the element, and the career and love and stuff like that, okay? So this is, if you don't know, these are the four. There is a fifth element called Akash or ether or space. We don't use that necessarily in the astrological wheel. In the chakras we do, in other areas of metaphysics we do. We're not doing that today. We're focused simply on the four. And the reason is that these are tangible, although air isn't so tangible, it is because obviously we breathe it. These are tangible elements. Whereas the Akash or the ether, the space, seems to be very elusive. And the astrology wheel is you on a piece of paper. So it tells me about you in this lifetime, from the moment you're born to the moment you die. So I need sort of tangible qualities. So we're leaving spirit / ether, Akash element outside. That's why the other day when I did the unmet needs, I only spoke of the four chakras. I told you a little bit about the fifth and the sixth, and then seventh is transcendence, but I stuck to the unmet needs that are four with the four elements. So that's what we're working with. So just set aside that there is spirit or ether or Akash. We're not doing that. We're dealing with the four tangible sort of. Okay, so that's what we have going on. Now Jung used the words extroversion, introversion, perceiving, judging, sensing, and intuiting. So if you go to the Myers-Briggs, you're going to get a 4-letter code. IPSI or IPSJ. I don't use this, so I'm just tying it in so that when you get your code, you could see what it is in the tools that I use. But you're going to get your little ENFP code. It's very popular on dating sites, by the way. Really funny. When I was on Tinder, people would put that in their profile. I'm an INFJ and I'm an EFPJ, whatever. Because in these 4 letters, you get a big idea personality-wise of what the person is. And what if you don't like that quality? You're extroverted like me. Maybe an introvert is going to be difficult because I like conversation and I can't be with a guy who doesn't want to converse. No one's going to talk as much as me, but can you talk at all? So I might see introversion. So I thought that was interesting that people were putting their codes. You know, people will also put their astrology signs and things like that. But a lot of people I saw would put their 4-letter Myers-Briggs code. So it's a thing. But it comes, that's more accepted because it's psychology and it's a valid instrument. It's an online personality assessment, but it all comes from metaphysics, people. All of it. Okay? So you're going to get the juice. 2 seconds, you get the birthday of the person, you're going to be able to see that. You don't need a 4-letter code. You're going to get your 4 elements, and you're going to know if they're extroverted, introverted, intuitive, perceiving. You're going to know. You're also going to know the shadow or the dark aspects of that as well, because everything that's light has a shadow aspect. Okay. Oh, speaking of that, I am teaching a lecture. I want to say it's April 10th to Saturday on the shadow side of the love languages. If you're interested, you guys as students are invited for free. So if you're interested, it's from 7 to 9 p.m. Basically, I'm going to talk to you about your moon and how you dysfunctionally want to be loved. This would be very helpful. I'm going to do all of the signs. So this would be another tool for your toolbox, for your practice, obviously in your life, but for yourself and for your client. So if you want, just shoot me an email, and I need your birthday, just your birthday with year. And I'm going to tell you your moon sign, the light and the shadow of it, more so the shadow, it's about the shadow, and the phase that you were born in, which speaks to your soul's growth in this life related to your moon. So it'll be a cool workshop. Okay. So a guest of mine, if you want to come. So these words, I'm going to kind of break them down in terms of elements. The Meyers-Briggs, let me just read to you the 16 types of these ENJP things. The inspector, the crafter, the protector, the artist, the advocate, the mediator, the architect, the thinker, the persuader, the director, the performer, the caregiver, the champion, the giver, the debater, and the commander. Those 16 are the 4 letters, so the combo of these put into a program with questions, and you get a little thing spit out. When you do your test, you'll get your code, and you'll get which one you are. I'm going to speak to you in terms of the elements. Now, when I hear inspector, earth element, obviously. Crafter also has an earth element, maybe with a water, maybe with an air. There's definitely a fire in a crafter. Think of someone who's crafting. There has to be some fire. Protector has to be water. That's like obvious. The moon, the family. Reminds me of that movie with Sandra Bullock and the big football guy. The Blind Side. Yeah, when they did like some personality profile. I love that scene. And she goes up to the coach because the coach got the results back from his test. And he scored like 90 on the family or 90 on the nurturer. And she was smart, and she went to the field and said, this is your family, protect them. And then he changed in practice and did well. So she understood psychologically how to speak to him, which is our job as therapists, right? The advocate obviously has fire. Think of people marching and social, social justice issues. The mediator is definitely water, air. The architect has earth. The persuader has air. The gift of gab, they could persuade you. The performer has air. They have to perform on stage. Caregiver obviously has water. The champion obviously has fire. The commander has fire and earth. The debater has air and fire. So you're going to see when you do your elements today and you do your Myers-Briggs for homework, whenever you do it, you're going to see the overlap of this. So whether these ladies knew this or not, doesn't matter. This is what it breaks down to. And so personality and all the theories that we covered in personality theories, and it's important, you guys need to know the science and the theorists, it boils down to this. So with this little tool, you can identify 4 elements in your client, in your lover, in yourself, in your friend, and identify their personality. This is for life. For life. There is a chart called the Progress chart, and as we move through life, the soul does learn lessons, and we do change and adapt and grow and spiral upwards. But who you are is who you are is who you are for the entirety of the lifetime. So I have a lot of fire and a lot of water and no earth, very little earth. And it shows through in everything I do. And so I have to eat earthy foods. I have to do earthy projects. I have to be patient. I have to be consistent. I have to be determined. And it's all the stuff I don't want to do. I can write a book in a day, but I can't walk my dog. Because earth is the basic, boring, day-to-day, mundane details.
Her dog was in diapers.
I mean, so you see this in the person. This is my personality. So I have to work very hard. So I eat, because of Ayurveda, earth foods like sweet potato and beets that have roots. Roots come from the earth. I need the earth element. So I need the earth element in my decor. I need the earth element in my spiritual practice. I need the earth element in the person I'm dating. I need the earth element in everything, because that's the element I'm lacking. And every single one of you is going to be lacking an element, some more than others. Some people have 0 or 1, and then you have 5 of another. Those people are going to have very dramatic personalities and that, like me. So I fizzle out. Like seriously, 3, 4 o'clock, I'm like dead. I start very early and I work. But then at night I'm done, because I don't have that earth to carry me through. And the elements of fire and water, think of it, water boils the fire boils the water, but the water puts out the fire, and that's your personality. That doesn't change. You learn, you grow, you adapt, you teach yourself skills, you learn to work with yourself. So that's part of your spiritual growth. What you are and who you are is what you are and who you are. Do not kid yourself, okay? So it's the same thing with these types, okay? And then we're going to talk about that. So you need to take out astrolab.com. If you're staying for astrology, I will do it for you. I brought the computer, but you can do this pretty easily on your own. I have the solar fire or the astro gold. I told you guys, if you're going to do this work, it's worth the $30, $40 investment, but there are free sites. And it doesn't have to be astrolab.com. That's just the one that I know is free. So you could Google free birth chart. It's going to tell you how many planets in fire, how many planets in air, how many planets in earth, and how many planets in water. We are only using the original 10 planets. Okay, so I've got the sun, Mercury, Venus, the moon, not the earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, not Chiron, not the black moon. So it only adds up to 10. Your elements have to be 10 between fire, air, earth, and water. Okay? If you need help with that, I'll go with each and every one of you and do it. But I'm just going to give the more of the theory, and then we'll go into practice. Okay. Let me just check my notes. Okay. So Jung stated that people are either introverts or extroverts. Most people know if they're introverted or extroverted. Obviously, I'm extroverted. But you know, want to know a funny story? When I was depressed and suicidal, I attribute it partly to the depression, but more so to the medication. And I was on a lot of antidepressants, and I had severe social anxiety, severe. And my therapist actually sent me to take the Meyers Briggs. And I actually came out introverted because I was obviously answering it for the moment in time. Obviously, I'm not introverted. But it was more, I think, for her to show me, look, right now at this point, this is what's happening. And I was socially anxious. I would get nervous. I would get scared to be in social situations. This was pre-COVID. Like, I had severe social anxiety. Those meds will alter your personality, and I needed them. So I'm an advocate. When you need it, you take it. But I noticed in myself, when I got off them, within a few weeks, I was back to my normal self. I was invited to a party at my son's girlfriend's house, and I was talkative, and I was like, I noticed so marked, wow, I'm back to my normal self. So extroversion and introversion, most people know, okay? Extroversion has to do with the fire element. If you have a lot of fire like me, you're gonna be extroverted. That's just the element associated with it. That does not mean that if you have a little fire that you might probably be introverted, especially if you have more water. But little fire tends to be more introverted. And there's other ways to live that out too, but we're just using these terms. Introversion, which funny enough, I have a lot of water, is linked to a lot of water. So if water is your primary element, you're going to be more introverted. It could also be earth. Let me explain something to you. There are two polarities. This is more for the people that want to know astrology, but it's a good piece of information. There's negative and there's positive, or masculine, feminine. This does not mean that feminine is negative and masculine is positive. Please do not get caught up in that ridiculousness. That's not what this is. What it has to do, and I told you this before with the triangles, feminine has to do with triangles that are pointed down. Think of it, it looks like the vagina. And masculine has to do with a triangle pointed up that has to do with the phallus. Okay, so that's symbolic. That also in spirituality, we talked a little bit about it the other day, but today it's just for the point of the elements. Feminine, and the reason that they point down is because it's water and earth. Water and earth are feminine polarities. They're going to be more introverted. Think of the oceans and think of the land. Fire and air rise. They're not really on the earth. I mean, obviously it's on the earth, but they rise. They're considered a masculine polarity. So people that have a lot more fire and air tend to have more of that masculine nature that we've talked about. I talked to you about the balancing of the energies, the law of gender. If you tend to have more water and earth, you tend to be more feminine in nature. Again, this has nothing to do with sexuality. It may represent your sexual preferences. That's one way it can live out in your life. But that doesn't mean, it could be that you're a very elegant man, that you know how to dress, that you have a lot of good sense of style. That's like a feminine thing in a man if he has a lot of earth. Phenomenal. A woman might be the CEO because she has a lot of fire. Doesn't mean that she's not a lady and she's not graceful. So don't misinterpret that, but this is how we show up in the world. We will decide, and of course there's a whole chart. This is like a tiny, 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 minuscule piece of information that I teach at basic level 1. There's weeks and years of astrological knowledge. So please, this is not everything, but it's important. It is the foundation, okay, for you to understand yourself and understand others, and where these psychological tools come from. So introverted tends to be water and earth, and extroverted tends to be people that have more air and more fire. Okay, so look at your chart and start counting how many fire, and I'm going to do each and every one of you because I want you to leave today having that breakdown so you know, and more importantly, so you know how to do it for your clients and for people in your life. Okay, if you have planets in Aries, Leo, and Sag, it's obviously fire. If you have planets in Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, then obviously earth, so you could break it down.
What's astrolab?
I don't know what astrolab is.
On astrolab.
Oh, I don't use that. I don't use that. I use my program. I brought the laptop today so we could run everybody's chart and you could take a picture of it. But those are free sites that you could get that. The good thing about the free sites is that they usually only have the 10 planets, so you don't have to worry about the Earth, the Chiron, although Earth will be on there. So when you see Earth, that symbol of the circle with the cross, don't count that. That doesn't count. It's just 10. You should add it up to 10. People that have, like I said, more fire and air are more extroverted and tend to have more water and earth are more introverted. Perceiving and judging. Judging is more tangible. It's a bad word, so to speak, so people don't like the word, judgment, but that's just the reality of it. Where perceiving is more like you're flexible, you're maybe a little less rigid. Let me see what words I have. For judging, I have like structure. People that are more like, they like a structure, they like rules, they like to plan. So that's what he uses for judging, but it's really an earth element. So people that have a lot of earth will tend to be J's in their 4-letter, the judging. Perceiving people have a lot more adaptability. This is going to be water and air. Think of the element. Earth has structure. Earth is structure. Earth has boundaries and limitations. Air you can't grasp. My daughter has like 90% air in her chart. She's like me. She talks and talks and talks. Her thoughts are a million miles a minute. I mean, it's like you can't grasp. And what happens is that that's her personality. People feel like they can never really get her. You know, like, who is she? She's elusive. She's interesting. That's the energy of the person. So people that have more perceiving are more adaptable. Water's more adaptable. Obviously, it molds to the container. And air, obviously, is adaptable to the room size or whatnot. So that's indicative of these words. The next is sensing and intuiting. So let me just see what I wrote. Sensing is more reality-based. People that are sensing, they actually live with the five senses. Okay, so they touch, they taste, they feel, they smell, they see. Seeing is believing type of people. Obviously, they're more earth people. They're more logical people. They're more reality-based people. Whereas intuiting people are water. We feel our way through the world. So Emmanuel is a Cancer. I don't know his 10, but he has to have a little bit of that intuitive nature just by virtue of his sun sign. So your sun sign is going to give you, it's just a basic layer. It is by no means your whole being. That's why I hate when people say, oh, I'm a Cancer, and they're nothing like the Cancer next to them. Obviously, there's so much. But it does give you an idea. Water signs have an intuitive sort of nature about them. They tend to be more, although Emmanuel is very rational and logical and knows all the news and knows everything that's ever been written in any paper. This guy can cite up facts. He has to have probably a balance there of air, that intellect, and that water of his Cancer sign intuiting. Maybe he gets a hunch of what's real and what's not when he reads an article, for instance. That's how we put it together. One of the things that this is so useful for is for people to realize that they're exactly who they're supposed to be. We beat ourselves up. We have this ideal of what we think you're supposed to be, and you're not. The chart confirms you're exactly who you're supposed to be. Does that mean that there's room for growth? Of course. Does it mean that you can learn from another? Of course. Does it mean that you can't change something about your lifestyle, your diet, your money management skills? Of course. But if you understand the basic elemental structure that is within you, you're going to say, oh, I'm living exactly what I'm supposed to be. I'm attracted to the people. I'm attracted to the career paths. I manage my money or don't manage my money because of it. And it gives you an allowance to just accept yourself. And part of our role as therapists is to help people come to terms with who they are. Then, of course, we help them make behavior change. But let's start with the foundation. Does this describe you? Yes, to a T. Well, look at that. You're exactly who you're supposed to be, not who your mother, or your teacher, or your boyfriend, or your husband is telling you to be. So it's a really empowering sort of tool that can be done so simply with a client. That's how I like to use it. Okay, so those are those. Like I said, the Myers-Briggs, do that on your own time, and we're going to do now the astrology so you can see how it matches up. I'm going to talk to you about, I'm going to repeat the unmet needs quickly and then talk to you about learning styles, health issues. That's very important. Hey, Nicole, when someone presents with health issues, you can identify what element it is, what body part. You already know the chakra, so you can link it back to the chakra, and you already know the fairy tale, and you already know the unmet need. So you have so much based on one symptom that perhaps they come with. So it's very telling on many levels. Okay, so how do you do it? Go to your chart. Nicole's on. I might share the screen here. I don't know how to do that. Hold on. And if you want to come up here, Nicole, I'm going to share the screen so you can see this. And if you want to do, let me pick mine. Okay. So you have your astrology wheel. Let me just show you. Looks like this. You see this? Okay. Go to, you want me to go through the order so you guys can do it in order? The order of the planets? Okay. The sun. Go to this symbol and see what sign it is. So for instance, my sun, and you all know your sun sign, is Pisces. And Pisces is a water. So what I do is I put a little cheat sheet on the paper. I put fire, air, earth, and water, and all I do. And then I tell the client, oh, you got 4 water, 2 air, 3 earth. That's it. It's very simple, but you have to do that little thing. That's the assignment. That's what you're going to do for yourself, for your client. Okay, so you've got the sun is, and what element it is. Your chart should tell you by color. So you don't need to even know the symbol, okay? If you can't figure that out afterwards when we do astrology post 10:30, then I'll go through each one and I'll bring it up for you. If you want to use my chart instead, it's fine. Mercury. Mercury looks like Mercury right there on the Nicole. Mercury is this purple one. And again, the color of the sign on my chart, all the waters are dark blue, all of the airs are aqua, all of the fires are red. That's the same one I have. And all of the earth is either green or brown. So if you know nothing, you know colors. So you just add up how many dark blue, that's your water. How many green or brown, that's your earth.
Are you looking at me, love?
No,
No,
I have.
some pink and some silver.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm using mine and I will run your chart on my app if you want to have me do it. I don't use that program, but I have mine. I brought it for everybody today. So if you want to leave today with your chart this way. I'm sorry? I use Solar Fire or Astro Gold. I really recommend the Astro Gold. They have it for Apple and Android. It's about $30-40. Solar Fire is a bigger program. It's the same company, but it has a lot more features for advanced astrologers like me. You guys really just need the basics, and that app is great. It has 90% of what I use in a practice. It's on my phone. So if you want to use my phone to do it, you can. I have it here. Next is Venus. Venus is the woman sign. Nicole, here's Venus, the aqua, and I have it in water. I don't see anyone writing it down except Yvette. Write it down. You're not going to memorize it. Write down your little cheat sheet. Moon is the moon. Everyone knows what the moons look like. Here's the moon, and mine's in Cancer. Your earth, you are not doing the earth. Your chart will probably have the symbol of the earth, which is the circle and the cross. I told you that's going to always be the opposite sign of your sun. We are not looking at that. That does not qualify in this calculation. Next is Mars, which we all know what Mars planet looks like, the circle with the arrow. Nicole, here's Mars. Mine's in Capricorn, which is Earth. This program, I don't know if Astrolab has that, also spits it out for me in a report. I will show you.
It's all verbal.
Okay, so you know Gemini is air, so you could put that in your air tally. So it does have it written for you. Mine does too. I have a report section and it spits it out written. So if you don't know what the colors, you don't know what the symbols or the glyphs are, don't worry, your computer will spit it out. Gemini is air. I put that on the board. So just tally it up. Next is Jupiter. Jupiter is the one that looks like a big 4. And mine's in Aquarius, which is air. Saturn is the one that looks like an H. And mine's in Gemini, an air. Uranus is the one that has the little testicle hanging down.
The what?
The little ball. And you know the myth of Uranus. He was castrated. His testicle was chopped off by Saturn. Mine's in air. Neptune is the one that looks like a pitchfork or a trident from Little Mermaid. And mine's in Sag, so fire. Pluto is like a magenta color, and mine's in air, and we're not doing Chiron. That should be 10. So I'm just going to do mine, fire, air, earth, water. And I've got 1 fire, air, 1, 2, 3, 4, air, 5 air, no, 1, 2, 3, 4 air.
Astro Gold is number 20 on the App Store, and Time Passages Pro is number 10. And it's $29.
Okay, so I've got 4 water, 1 earth, 4 air, 1 fire. I actually thought I had more fire, but in my old way, I used to use the Black Moon Lilith and my Chiron when I used to do it before. Now I just do it stripped down to the 10 because it's more legit, in my opinion. And then I had more fire, but I do have a lot of fire and I have a fire ascendant. But look, I have more water and air, which is kind of funny. But I knew that I had like little earth, and that obviously shows up in my personality, in my life, and everything. So calculate, and what element are you missing? You're missing water? Okay, we're gonna talk about that. Nicole, I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, what do you have?
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, you can use that. There should be a report. Okay, so add up these planets, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. Those 10, in your report, it'll say Pluto's probably going to be in Libra because you were born like me. So that's going to be an air. Uranus is probably going to be in Libra because you're born like me. Those are generational. That's another air. I don't know what sun sign you are. What's your sign? Okay, so you're Taurus, that's an earth. So you should have 10, should equal 10. The fire, air, earth, and water. So if you have the report, it'll spit it out for you. And like I said, I'll help everybody figure out. Okay. Now, what does this say about our personality? If you lack an element, you are going to go what I call 0 to 100 in life with that element. You are either going to overcompensate excessively. So for instance, for my younger years, I used to make a lot of money. Like making money was a big thing for me. Because in my mind, earth, one of the representations of the earth element is money. Indeed. Just like land, real estate, people that acquire a lot of real estate or a lot of money or a lot of land are either have a lot of earth in their chart or they have no earth and they're trying to overcompensate. It's the law of the pendulum. It's the 0 to 100. So first look at the element you're missing. And my question to you is, how do you compensate or overcompensate for that element? These are questions you can ask your client. If you say to them you have no earth, maybe they need to live like in a forest or they need to live in the mountains. That's how they're compensating for that element in their life. Or they attract very earthy people. They have to attract or they have to incorporate that element into their life somehow because psychologically they don't know how. That's our job as the therapist. I know that the way that I have to incorporate it is by doing small little things in my day-to-day life. I know this because I know astrology and my 6th house cusp is Taurus, which is Earth. That's too much information. You don't need to know that. I even named my dog Dino, short for Dinacharya, is a Sanskrit word that means daily routine. Because earth is the element of daily routine, people that have a routine. I have no routine. So you're going to help your client to fix their element. It's not a fix, it's to balance. The illness is imbalance, so we're here to help them balance. If it isn't creating a problem in their life, don't worry about it. If they don't come to you with an issue around that particular problem, then let them be. It looks like I have a little less fire. I don't know. I have a lot of fire. And again, it's probably because my Chiron and my Black Moon and my Sag Ascendant, so I have a lot of fire, just it doesn't show up in the elements. So I'm not going to go to someone ever, have I said, I need more energy, help me figure out how to get, are you kidding me? That ain't my shtick. The only signs you have are Virgo, Sag, Taurus, Aquarius, and Moon in Cancer. Okay. No, that's impossible because that would be 1 Earth, 1, 2. No, you have 2 Earth, Virgo, Taurus, 1 in air, 1 in water, and 2 in fire. You're missing. It has to add up to 10, Nicole. So go through the list that I went. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. No, impossible. Every single person has all 10. Oh, you mean of the 10, you only have them in those signs. That's fine. Now add them up. Add up how many Virgo, how many Taurus, how many Capricorn. That's Earth. How many Leo, how many Sag, how many Aries, that's fire. So now add those up. So if a person comes to you, just like in anything in therapy, that isn't posing a problem, they came for a specific problem, that's what you're going to work on. But obviously, if you're missing an element or you have too much of an element, we'll talk about that in a second, you are overcompensating. Most people are going to overcompensate in an unhealthy way. So obviously making money did not pose a problem to me. Very much enjoyed it and traveled the world as a result. Not a problem. But what I did do was I worked too much around the clock, had no balance in my life, would be with my kids all day, put them to sleep, and then work at night all around the clock, and I never got any sleep. And knowing that sleep is something that's a pillar of health, that wasn't going to work. So that way of making money was not working. It was unhealthy and imbalanced. So you're going to find out from yourself, first and foremost, what element are you lacking the most of, and how do you overcompensate for that? The answer is always within. That goes from the first book, from the 7 gates. When I tell you to write a rule book or how you're going to meet the need for yourself, you're already trying to meet the need through someone else. If you have very little water or too much water, you're going to try to nurture and protect the hell out of everybody. Right? No, you got to protect and nurture yourself. That's the mistress. That's the other model. It's all saying the same thing. I've just written it in every different way possible so that someone gets it some way. Okay.
Do you want us to write how many times it appears or something?
You can if that's how you want to tally it. Count up fire, air, earth, and water. Just make a little rayitas. I'll help you specifically. Okay, Nicole, that's 6. You're missing. You're missing 4. It has to add up to 10, people. I will help you individually. Oh, she's counting. Okay. Yeah, you have to have fire. It just it comes out of you. Plus, you were in the military, so that tends to be a fire profession, and you'll see that. So the element that you're missing, what was that?
I just said something because one of the websites that I used gave you like a small chart and told you how many times in that section like planets or something.
Okay, now add them up. So if you have 3 times Capricorn, that's 3 Earth. 2 times Taurus, that's 2 Earth. So now just add them up to bring them down to 10.
It said chart area of fire, keyword physical, and then number of planets per chart.
Perfect. Okay, so that's how it is. Now add it up and it should be 10 because they might be counting Earth and you don't want that. So any planet, any element that is missing, you are going to overcompensate 0 to 100. Either not do it at all. I didn't want to pretend to have a body. I don't have a body. I'm not going to take care of myself. I'm all spirit. Nonsense. So I have to take care of my body to balance that. That's the earth element. Or you're going to go excessive where the only thing that matters is your body, that's your body, that's your body. And I was bulimic for many years. The body was the obsession that I had. So your client, you are going to absolutely overcompensate for that missed element. The goal of therapy is to have them integrate that element into their life, meeting their own needs through adult means, whether it's diet, whether it's a profession, in a relationship. Oftentimes we found someone, my boyfriend now has 6 planets in Earth. Can the universe be screaming any louder? Come on now. Of course, I need 6 planets in Earth because I ain't got none. So we attract people. Okay, this is how we do it. But the key, the goal, yes, it's great to live by the mountains, and it's great to have a person in your life or your children all be earth signs. But that isn't internal. You haven't learned the lesson. You haven't integrated the element. You haven't shifted your subconscious to make that a balanced thing in self. The only way is when I walk the dog, take out the garbage, eat the good foods. That's what I got to do. Has nothing to do with anybody else. That's why step 5 in the model is meet your own need. How are you going to meet your own need? If you have too little fire or no fire, your energy level is going to be nil. You're not going to want to start projects. You're not going to want to go and initiate a conversation. You're going to be introverted. You're going to be fear to ask for a raise. You're going to be terrified to go up to a guy or a girl and ask them on a date. Your client will come for something like that. They're going to feel inhibited in their life. They're getting too little money for working too hard. They don't know how to tell their boss to screw off. They don't know how to break up with someone. People that don't have fire can't break up in an unhealthy relationship. They stay way past the expiration date. So they need to introduce the fire element. Of course, ceremonially have them do fires, wear red, all that great stuff, eat high spicy foods. Yes, bring the fire element in. But psychologically speaking, which is what we're here to talk about, how would you counsel a client to bring in the fire element in their psyche? Look at the words associated with the sun, which is a fire planet, Leo, Mars, which is Aries, and Sagittarius, which is Jupiter. I have hero, I have creator, and I have explorer. Leadership things, go to apply for a leadership position at work, make them initiate a conversation. Maybe they have to go on a trip, the explorer, Jupiter, with themselves, where they have a map and they're doing it all themselves, not someone planning for them, but they plan it. Those are very uncomfortable. To me, that sounds super great, super fun. Keisha, too. Sign me up. I love to tell people what to do. But if someone lacks fire, they're going to tremble at the thought of that. They're going to be intimidated, perhaps, by someone like me. They're going to be scared. And our job therapeutically is to help them introduce that element psychologically by doing those things, giving themselves a little erection, behavior change, small steps. I don't need them to go tell their boss to screw off or quit their job or, build a business from one day to the next, but they have to make some initiatory steps. They have to send an email that's uncomfortable. They have to take a risk. Fire is risky. Fire is people that are courageous. Like you said, leadership. So we have to introduce that quality in small steps. Maybe they have a little book club at their house and they invite 4 of their closest friends, but they're taking the lead. That's how you introduce internally the fire element. Yes, have them do fires and wear red and eat spicy foods. All that stuff builds up to it. But internally, meeting their own need, that's the way they have to do it. We're going to get there. We're doing first the lack, and then we'll do the excess.
We're not counting the node.
Pluto, yes, not the node. Water. Anyone have little water?
If I count Pluto, that makes it 11.
No, it has to be 10. Okay, Nicole says she has no water, little water. People that have little water, they tend to be, depends if they have a lot of earth or air. Okay, so we're going to balance them out in a minute and I'll share all of the, that's where the 4-letter code is. What?
So what do you mean by little, like how little?
Little, 0, 1, maybe 2. Okay, more balance is around 3, 4, and then of course like 5 and 6 is excess in that. You're going to look at the proportion to what you have. I have 4 air and 4 water. So that's a pretty decent number, so to speak, but it's a bit more because it's taking away from the other elements. So you gotta see what you're missing. It's going to be personal for each person. But there are only, in the Meyers-Briggs, there's only 16 combinations. There's only combination certain amount of numbers, okay? So you're going to, get a feel. If you're lacking water, you're going to tend to, I mentioned the other day, suffer. We like to suffer, water people, or 0 to 100 water people. You're going to overcompensate with emotion or lack of emotion, not feeling your emotions. Again, 0 to 100. When we are lacking something, like I lacked earth, I overcompensated with work and money. But I undercompensated the 0 by not eating good foods and taking care of my body. That's the shadow. Any client that has the extremes, the 0 to 100, is out of balance. So you could be too emotional, Nicole, feel absolutely everything and cry at a drop of a hat, or not feel shit and say, I'm a hard ass, I don't feel anything, nothing affects me. Okay? The other elements are going to tell me a little bit more. She's a crybaby, she says. Okay? So that tends to be. Water people, excessive water people like you and I, tend to be very, very intuitive. Oftentimes, when you're lacking the water element, what do you have a lot of? Air and earth. Practical, logical. I don't want to hear about spirit. I don't want to hear about faith. I don't want to hear about intuition. That's nonsense. If I don't see it, I don't believe it. So your God could be money. Your God could be logical knowledge, book smarts. And then you don't trust that intuitive voice, that divine spark. So it shows up also in the way that you live in the world and your belief systems and how you carry yourself. This fizzles into everything of your life. This is not limited to just behavior change. This is everything. This is how you show up in the world, and this does not change. If you learn good behaviors and you make behavior changes, great. Most people do behavior changes very short-lived, because they default back to this. And then they find themselves every new year setting the same New Year's goal. Of course, because you're responding to your element or your missed element. So this is science. This is like on point. If you have too little air or excessive air, it's going to be about intellect, rational thought, ideas, talking, communication, or not talking. People with no air might be shy. They might be introverted. They might be mute. They might say, oh, hell no, am I talking? Or they're trying to study to prove how intelligent they are. That was me. I was a diploma seeker, a diploma hoarder. I say, I have no earth, I don't hoard. Yeah, I did. I hoarded intelligence, I hoarded knowledge, I hoarded wisdom, I hoarded diplomas. Because I had an unmet need. Air is linked to validation. Water is linked to protection. Safety needs are linked to fire. And what am I missing? Oh, love. Love is all of them. Everybody has love needs. That's actually a little bit more air, because that's the fourth chakra. But intelligence and validation, they're intermingled. The unmet needs aren't super clear. I'll go through that in a minute. But it's not like one. But they tend to be. People with a lot of fire, or the need to go into dangerous situations like war, or firefighters, they tend to have a fight or flight. I mentioned adrenal, cortisol, that sort of system, which is a first chakra or an unmet need of safety. They probably had a very unsafe childhood, or they learned that safety was like in being fearful, or being a coward, or being courageous. Second chakra is water. That's more protective needs. Maybe, like I said, the mother doesn't grow up, so you want to protect and nurture everybody. Again, if you have too much water or too little water. So Nicole has little, she cries a lot. I used to cry a lot. I wanted to nurture everybody because I didn't have a mother that nurtured me. So that's how we overcompensate. Third chakra is fire, self-worth and self-love. But in unmet needs, it's validation in my model. The third one is validation. And usually air. It does have some fire too. but it's more about validate me. Look how smart I am. Look what I've earned. Look, it could be money too, you know, earth element. I make so much money or whatever. And then love is kind of all of it. And we all have a love need because no one was loved unconditionally. So those aren't super sort of like A, B, C, D in a box, but they're involved. And I already went through that a couple weeks ago in that lecture. If you're missing, I did earth, water, air, fire. We did those. Okay. So that's how you overcompensate. That's the 0 to 100. If you have a lacking element, you want the client obviously to make shifts internally, not externally, although you start with external situations and ceremonies and decorative and things like that. Food is a very good way to start making internal changes. What we do physically impacts us psychologically, mentally, and spiritually. So yesterday I had a client who astrologically is working on his shadow aspect of his moon. He's got a moon in Aries. That could be a very violent, you know, abrasive moon. And he had just started a couple weeks ago with a nutritionist because he was drinking a lot of alcohol and he didn't want to do that. And the nutritionist like, start drinking a lot of water. He's flushing out the system of water, of the alcohol. And so I explained to him subconsciously that when you flush out the alcohol, which is I call toxic water, which is the toxic womb, which goes back to the moon, which is what we're going to talk about in that chat in a couple weeks, that he's flushing out the system. And what he's working on subconsciously, which then I worked on that with him, was dethroning his mother, leaving home, the value system of the parents versus his Costco versus his Nordstrom, all the stuff you know. So what we do physically oftentimes is a catalyst because it's easier, it's more practical. Then that leads to behavior change psychologically and subconsciously. So if you have no other tool, use food, use dietary change. That's a really good way to start, especially if someone needs or wants to change certain behaviors with their diet. So we'll talk about that more. And that's Ayurveda. Ayurveda is all about the elements, the imbalance of the elements. Something that you guys might be interesting to do is to find out what's called your Prakruti. And that you might have heard, Vata, Pitta, Kapha. There are three energies that all of us have. People that are very Vata have a lot of air and ether. They tend to be skinny and wiry, and they have no discipline. Again, it's the air element out of balance. People that have a lot of Kapha, Kapha is earth and water, they're muddy. They tend to be heavier set, but they tend to be very patient and very loyal because they have a lot of earth. And people that are, what did I say? I just lost my train of thought. Fire, I'll get to the word in a second. I just had a moment. Is a fire element, fire and water, and those people tend to be Pitta people have a lot of fire, and water, they tend to be very fiery. So they tend to have an active leadership, warrior sort of personality. So in Ayurveda, we give food, we give herbs to balance the element of Vata. We add earth because they have too much air and ether. With Pitta people that have a lot of fire, we also add more earth element. With Kapha people, they have so much water and earth, they're muddy, sluggish, we add fire. So food is a really good place to start sometimes, even though you guys aren't dietitians. You can direct them to a nutritionist. I work closely with a nutritionist, and I have them work on physical stuff while I work on subconscious stuff. I am a licensed nutritionist, even though I don't work in that anymore, so I have that knowledge, but then they're doing mind, body, spirit, because they work with me, mind and spirit. So that's another person in your integrative team that helps you to help the client, because what you do in one area of your life, you do in all area of your life. Always. This idea that you're different at home and at work, yes, you put on a mask at work that you're disciplined and you're this and you're that, but you're the same thing as you are at home, as you are with your kids, as you are with your money. It seeps through. These elements seep. They're not that complicated. Now, if you have too much of an element, it's obviously taking away from some of the other element. You don't need to really overcompensate because you already have that element. So it shows up oftentimes like burnout, fire, overthinking, neurosis, people who can't get out of their heads, people that are really, really brilliant and have great ideas, but they don't put anything on paper. Water, very sensitive, very emotional, yes, very intuitive, but if you can't leave your house or talk to someone because you're so intuitive that everybody, you're so sensitive. And what am I missing? Earth. Earth people tend to have maybe a lot of acquisitions. I'm talking dysfunctional levels, right? Hoarding. They hoard everything. Those people tend to have a lot of earth. And so when we're on the 100, when we have too much of that, again, we need to balance it with the other elements. Our profession will 99.9% be dictated by the element that we have a lot of. 99% of the time. It could be that you overcompensate with your missing element and get into a profession where you're sort of forced. Let's say if you have no air to speak or little air to speak, it's rare though. We tend to choose professions where those elements are accepted and allowed. So obviously fire, you could be in the military, you can be a firefighter, maybe a chef because you're in the fire, in the kitchen, in the heat, things like that. So that's how we choose our profession. Let me tell you a little bit about health issues. The zodiac is from head to toe, head to feet. Aries is the first sign, rules the head. Pisces is the last sign, rules the feet. I am going to have some feet issues. When I was a teenager, I used to not let anyone see my feet. I would not take off socks. I didn't know this stuff back then. And I was like, I thought I had the grossest, ugliest feet. The reason that Pisces rules the feet is that Pisces people live in the clouds. We don't aterrizar. We don't like land on this earth. So the feet that makes you walk the earth, you're going to tend to have problems with the feet. Why? So you could focus on your feet, walk the earth, welcome to earth, be an earthling. Aries people, if you look at the glyph of Aries, it's the ram's head. They ram their head into everything. They're trailblazers, yes. They're creators, yes. But whoa, you need a break. So fire people will tend to have head issues, burns, inflammation on their skin. Why is that funny? Migraines, heart issues, heart attacks, things like that, heart issues, cholesterol stuff, that's all fire, excess fire.
Sugar?
No, sugar has to do with earth people, earth and water, but more earth. And hips, the hips have to do with fire too. That's all you? Okay. Earth people, skin, not red blotchy skin, but skin, maybe it could be psoriasis or acne or skin cancer. Skin people, earth people can have that. Thyroid is a big earth person. What else? The bones, bone cancer, the bones, things with bones, joints, the cartilage, vertebrae, things like that. Earth people tend to have issues with that, the structure of the body. Okay, so just think of if fire is the transformative element, digestion, people with fire issues all have digestion stuff. They have too much, they might have diarrhea. They have a lot of fire. They don't have enough fire, they might have very slow digestion and constipation. So fire is definitely related to that as well. Air people, anxious, neurosis, yep, Nervous system. The central nervous system is ruled by air. Remember when I showed you a couple weeks ago the symbol of the caduceus, the two snakes with the wings? That's the staff of Mercury. Mercury is air, or the energy medicine, and it's the nervous system. It's the central nervous system people that have air. That's why they get a lot of anxiety and they have a lot of, they have upper extremity issues. They have respiratory issues, lung issues, asthma, bronchitis, upper respiratory. When you have a little kid that's constantly in the hospital with upper respiratory, that's an air thing. Okay? The thoughts are so in control that they have to get like sort of in their body with those sorts of issues. And then water signs, the reproductive organs, number one, so breast, cervix, prostate, things like that, uterus, water people. What else am I thinking? I'm a little slow today. My fire is not on. So your feminine organs, your sexual reproductive organs, your breasts, emotional stuff, obviously, you know, very sentimental, very emotional, easily hurt. Oh my God, so offended. Look what they did to me, victim, rescue, that sort of stuff too. But physical are those organs. Any questions about, so if a client comes to you and is very neurotic or very anxious, that's an air thing. So then you can start speaking to that element. Of course, you'll know because you'll have the breakdown. So then, of course, what element would you want to introduce if they have a lot of air? If air is masculine, you don't want to bring fire. You want to bring either earth or water, depending on what elements they're lacking. Okay. So these four elements sort of dictate personality. And it's how you show up in the world. Learning style. People that have a lot of air, they're very rational, logical, they're very smart, okay? So they like to talk, they're maybe very audio listeners, they can keep up with podcasts or the lectures. Fire people and earth people like to do, they're more kinesthetic learners, okay? Water people like more of a visual. They like to see the pictures, they like to see the words, they sort of remember with more of a visual. Fire people also and earth people like visuals too. Again, this isn't 100% like this, it has overlap and we all have all the elements. But these are generalities. So when you do your elements, and I'll go with each of you now because I want you to leave here today knowing your breakdown. Then I want you to do your Myers-Briggs, and I want you to see the combination. So let's just go through a few. We won't go through all 16. Mediator. Now that you know, I told you before, but if I tell you that you're the mediator of the Myers-Briggs, what elements do you hear in mediation and mediator? Okay, which is? Okay, air. A mediator is someone who talks. They go from room to room, trying to mediate between the divorcing couple, right? So water, air is an absolute must. What other element? What does a mediator, personality-wise, have to have? I could never mediate.
No.
Because I don't have any earth.
Water.
Some water, but earth.
Fire.
Earth is patience. Earth is consistency. Earth is memory.
I was thinking water is that though. Water is fluidity. So water is like.
Okay, but remember, both feminine polarities, water and earth, are going to be adaptable, similar. Water more so. But think of the act of going room to room, room to room. I would shoot myself. Funny enough, I was the mediator in my family for many years. Funny enough. Maybe that's how I overcompensated and adapted. But it's like, okay, mom, okay, dad, okay, mom, okay, dad, okay, husband, okay, wife.
Father and daughter.
Shoot me. Right. So you need the element of air and you need the element of earth. So if you get them your 4 code, go to now your 4 elements and confirm. You're going to see that you indeed have those elements. This is all the same, whether you call it Ayurveda, you call it the gunas, you call it the Prakruti, you call it your astrological breakdown. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. There is not variation. There's just different names. But this is a tool that you can have at 2 seconds before your client even walks in the room. And it's a great achievement of your friends and your family. So people can lie to you and say, oh, I'm not like that. Bullshit, of course you are. Oh, I have no scarcity. If you have a lot of earth or very, very little earth, you're going to show up very 0 to 100. Very abundant. I'm larger than life. I'm a loud sort of big person. Because really, my psyche, I feel super, super, super small. I feel scarce. It's an overcompensation. And the way that I balanced the scarcity was that I worked a lot and made a lot of money because I had no self-worth. So the person with, whether it's their career, whether it's their learning style, whether it's the illness they present with, whether it's the element, is telling you exactly what they are. So in my first episode of my podcast, I have the 0 to 100. Prince Popper for me. I might act all big and all king and all whatever, but really, itty little bitty living space, like the genie in Aladdin says. Shoved to the bottom of the ocean. Mythology, Pisces, Avestos, my story. Now I'm finally getting that fire, getting that earth element, living in my power. But my thread, my theme is always going to be, so whether you look at the sign, the myth, the elements, it doesn't matter. Pick a language that speaks to you and work that in your practice. I'm teaching you all the different ways that you can hear for the same thing. The commander. What element do you think that somebody that's the commander 4-letter Meyers-Briggs have to have? Fire. No, hold up. Fire, man. Are you kidding? That shouldn't even take a second to figure out. What else do you think a commander has to have? What other element do you think a commander that's really going to command his or her troops? Earth. So commander people have to have fire and earth pretty balanced. That's going to show in your Myers-Briggs. Now, extroversion is fire and judgment is the earth in the Jung and the Myers-Briggs terminology. So you're going to probably get someone with EJ. How you're going to match it to the elements. I don't use that tool, but for you guys, since it is a very valid used tool in psychology that most people are familiar with, I need to teach that to you. What about thinker? That's an easy one. Air. Thinking is all air, like my daughter. My daughter's 90% air. She thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks and thinks, and then she has me who thinks and talks and talks and talks. The two of us talk for hours. We love it. We're like on the phone for hours, talking and thinking and thinking and talking. All my water, all her air. Oh my God, we're having fun. What about protector?
Water.
Water. The element of water, the second chakra, the mother, the fairy tale of Peter Pan. I mean, I've tied this into you in 40 different ways so you can put it all together. The protector is water. That's also protection needs. That person's going to be like in that movie Blindside, a lot of water. One more. What about the persuader? What do you need to be persuasive? You need fire, but what else do you need?
Or air?
Air. You got to be able to talk a smooth talk. But you got to be quick wisdom with the fire. I see a fire air there. That person's going to be pretty persuading. Those are the people that you want to be the president of your team, or Samantha who's going to go and get us our wellness center. She's going to persuade the administration.
There when no one's telling me to do anything. This is a tutu. Okay?
You're a Libra. You're stuck. So your sun sign is part of the element. but it's not the whole story. That's why I don't do horoscope, I do astrology. And your chart gives the whole picture of your whole life, of everything. So this is just a basic thing. Now, who wants to learn a little detail more? Okay. Now, you only need your birthday for this. Your sun sign has a little number, a 7, an 11. From the number 0 to number 29, let me share the screen so Nicole can see. This is a second little cheat so that you know everybody is not the same. Hey, Nicole, you see the sun? Right here, there's a number 23. This is my chart. So you see the sun, and right above it, there's a number between 0 and 29. On top of that, there's another number. That's with the little line. You're not looking at that. That's seconds. The degree, the one that says 23 degrees with a little dot. Everybody got that?
The one that's to the left and not the one that's to the right?
Mine isn't to the right, to the left. Mine is on top and on top. It's the one that's directly on top, and it has to be 0 to 29, and it has a little dot that means, a little circle that means 29 degrees or 20 degrees. Okay, perfect. Now, if you are 0 to 9, write it down on your paper. I don't see anyone with paper. I don't know how you're doing this without paper.
No, it's on your phone.
Well, I'm old school.
Well,
Where are you?
yeah,
10 degrees.
It's not under it, right? Because mine's on top, so it like flipped it upside
No,
down.
6 degrees.
So these are, okay.
Okay. It's the one that has the little circle. That's the degrees.
yeah, but to the left, I would too.
Where's your sun? 28 degrees. Okay. This is going to now give you an extra little layer of level of the person. So there's only 4 elements, and the combinations turn into these 4 letters, right? Astrologically, we also have a little tweaker. So just to give an example, the caregiver and the protector are obviously both water. So what makes the caregiver and the protector different? They're probably most water. In astrology is what I'm going to teach you now. Okay? So find your degrees. Take out your little paper. Nicole, you got it? You got your little, okay. If you have 0 to 9, raise your hand. Okay. You are what we call a Venus decanate. You're a Libra. Ay, Dios mío.
What is it?
If you have 0 to 9 degrees, you are your sign, Libra, Aquarius, Taurus, whatever, and you're a double of that.
If you have
Double
one,
Pisces, double Libra, double Aquarius.
that's 0 to 9.
That's 0 to 9. Work with me on that.
For your own chart, right?
For your chart.
I don't know.
You have it on your phone.
Yeah, but I don't think this one's on. I just.
Do yours. Put yours in there.
Scroll
It
down
says
the
to put your
bottom.
birthday and your time and
No,
everything.
Scroll down to the bottom.
And you don't even need your birth time for this. So if you don't have your birth time, it doesn't matter. The sun degree is the day you were born. You could only be born between 0 and 29. Only. There's no option. If you are born between 10 and 19, raise your hand. Okay, you're an Aries? You're a Taurus? Then you are a Taurus Virgo. I'm going to get to that. Just work with me. Who else has, what are you? You're a Leo? Okay, you're a Leo Sag. Nice. Anyone else? Nicole, are you from 10 to 19? This is called a decanate. For those of you that are staying after, I will show you how to see it. I'm going to explain it in a minute how I got there. It's not that advanced. It's pretty simple, but, oh, okay. And are you born between 20 and 29 like me and Emmanuel? You're a Cancer, so you are a Cancer Pisces. club. And Keisha, what's your sun sign?
Capricorn.
You're a Capricorn, you're a third decanate, and you're a Cancer Taurus. I mean, a Capricorn Taurus. So this is like the difference between caregiver and protector. Let's just talk about that for a second. We know they're both waters. Do you think a caregiver has more water than a protector? Really?
Or maybe
Yes.
A caregiver, you're home, you're with the kids, you're cooking, you're cleaning, your whole life is the house. That's probably someone that's a double Cancer. We're talking about caregiver. I'm going to get to protector in a second. I'm with you. So the caregiver is water, probably double water, a lot of shitload of water. That's probably why they're the caregiver. So they're probably, astrologically speaking, going to be a Cancer, probably born within the first 10 days of Cancer. Different than Emmanuel, who's a Cancer Pisces. So he's going to have a little different taste. So let's go to what you're saying. What about a protector?
fire.
You both say fire.
I feel like they, in some stances, they do. Like some protectors are like the angry protectors.
Okay, so that could be fire. I would, because you're like protecting and you're creating like a boundary. No one touch my baby. Like, you know, it's like, but there is fire.
Do when you come at her and attacks the shit out of her.
Okay, so you, okay.
Exactly.
Well, it's not an exact science. We're talking it through. I'm giving you, that's their words. I wouldn't use that word. So I'm just going to take it to the water. So we know Cancer is a lot of water. Pluto or Scorpio has an edge, right? And Pisces, we're just losers. We're spiritual and we're fluffy in the sky. Okay, which is so funny because he does have a thing of that, but he has to have air. Like Emmanuel, I need to know what your breakdown is because you're just so logical and smart that you have to have a lot of air. It's got to come out somewhere, or so little air that you compensate. I don't know.
Resourceful.
Very resourceful. What?
I have 3 air.
Your most is water?
Yeah,
How many?
5.
5. Okay, 3 air. That's your second. And then what about fire and earth?
2.
Okay, so that's why. Because he's always like, and this news and that news and the news, and he knows everything. There's not one thing this kid doesn't know about the news. So to me, I see the air really quick, and I know that he's a Cancer, so I know there's water. And plus, there's other things that I can see that the water, but I'm always picking up on the air element, so I knew he had to have a lot. So the decanate, the little extra tinge, has to do with this breakdown. Your first day of the first 10 days of your birthday, of your sign, so I'm just going to use the example of Joy. She's a Taurus. But you were born what degree? Okay, so you're a Taurus Virgo. That means that she's Taurus and she's got all the Taurus qualities, but then there's a Virgo, there's an OCD, there's a perfectionist, there's a cleaning the house nitpicky, everything has to be like that, she's judgy as shit, all that. That's the layer of you different than another Taurus. So don't tell people, oh, you're a Taurus, we're all the Taurus alike. Bullshit, you're not. Okay, you're Aquarius of what degree? Wait a minute. You're Aquarius of what degree? Tell me the percentage. I don't know. Tell me the degree. 0 to 29. Do your homework, people. Damn.
All right. After collecting dust from the gallery, this is what I have.
19. Okay, so you are a what, Aquarius?
Yeah.
You're an Aquarius Gemini. Aquarius Gemini. Aquarius is very logical and rational and science-oriented. They are larger than life. They like to beat to their own drum. Stacy, who thinks that she can come in and out whenever the hell she wants and does her own rules. She makes her own rules, okay? Because that's Stacy. Since the day I met her years ago, comes and goes and does whatever, with her cute little stuff. And then her decanate, her degree is, what did I say, Gemini. The which is Gemini. Gemini is the ability to speak. Oh my gosh, she used to go on these talks and would share with the class. And when we would do the role play, she would be the one and ask the question. She was the therapist, so she's in a good field for that because she's got that Gemini talker. Now, if you see yourself identified with that Taurus trait, it's because it's somewhere else in your chart. You have Taurus and Virgo in every sign in your chart. But I'm just specifically speaking about your sun sign, which is your element breakdown, and that little extra that, for the example of the Meyers Briggs, is protector versus caregiver. Both water, but what makes them different kinds of waters? So each one of these has to do with a little more detail. So Emmanuel is a Cancer Pisces. So he's got the emotion, the sensitivity, the intuition, the family. He's very family oriented. He helps his mother. You hear him, you talk about all of that. But then there's a Piscean-ness about him. Maybe he's more spiritual. Maybe he's more mystical. Maybe he's more not as grounded or as earthy because he's Pisces. I'm a Pisces Scorpio. So yeah, I'm a Pisces and I'm lost in the clouds, but I am Scorpio. I got an edge, I got a kick, I tell you shit, I shatter your snow globes. That's the Scorpio. If I was a double Pisces, gag. Sorry for anybody who's listening as a double Pisces. For you. I would vomit. I vomit with one Pisces. I don't want to be a double Pisces.
One Pisces.
Okay? So every one of you has now an extra layer. So everybody has 0 to 29. The first 10 days of your sign when you were born, those 0 to 9, it's the first 10 days, but it's 0 to 9 degrees, those people are all similar. They're always going to be the double Aquarius, double Cancer, double Scorpio, double Pisces, always. The second decanate, which is 10 to 19, is going to be the second sign. And then the third decanate is going to be the third. Okay, so you're all Cancer, but you're Cancer Pisces. You're Cancer Scorpio or you're Cancer Cancer. If you have any questions, let me know. That's what's going to be a little different, for instance, between the protector and the caregiver. There's a little tinge that's a little different. They've got a little bit more fire, a little bit more earth, a little bit more edge.
So would you say that, I know this is kind of like random, but like, would you say that if you do have more like, of like one of the four, should you seek out to try to balance yourself?
Absolutely, that's the goal. You absolutely. The name of the game, therapy, diet, psychology, spirituality, relationships, everything in life is one illness. It's the illness of imbalance. Every single human being comes with balance. Only one person, no freaking joke. And I was writing this in my book last night because I'm talking about self-mastery and I'm 48 to 52. So everybody has 0 to 100, 0 to 100, and I dedicate my life to seeing the 0 to 100, how you overcompensate, what your unmet need is, blah, blah, blah. My goal is try to help you to achieve self-mastery, which is the 48 to 52. I have a whole new theory. When we get to family systems, I'll share it. I shared a little bit the other day in class how to get to that. And that's called self-mastery, or my favorite word that I have none of, which is equanimity, balance. When I was studying astrology, we did this assignment, and there was a girl. He used different because she had 12, so he might have used Chiron, Black Moon, the nodes, I don't remember. There were 12 that he used to add up. The girl had, no, 16 he used, so he must have used all the asteroids and everything. She had 4, 4, 4, and 4. Oh my God, she was so freaking boring. She would sit in the class. She was like, boring, boring. The teacher even said to her, "You're like boring." You were born balanced? Like, that's unheard of. I'm sure that she had imbalance in her chart. I don't know, obviously oppositions and squares and something to work on because no one's perfect. But boring. Do you really want to have all the elements balanced? That's what people say about the 48 to 52. People have said that, but that's going to be so boring. You're not going to have high highs or low lows. And that's the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to reach this self-mastery, to reach this equanimity, to be at a state of balance. But you're not going to have super high highs even if something happens, and you're not going to luckily have super low lows if something happens. So people say, God, that's so boring. Well, when you're 80, that's pretty good, right? Not now. She was in her 40s. This was many, many years ago. Again, I don't know her chart, but I do remember that in class, and it was so true. She was kind of just blah. So the elements give you the sass that you have, people. But yes, you want to try to balance them. I'm sorry, what was that? Everybody's unbalanced. It just happened to be the elements. I don't have her chart, so I can't answer. No one's perfect.
In her case, she's so.
But, you know, she's probably very equanimous, a lot of self-mastery. Maybe she had one or two oppositions or squares to work on in this life, because everybody has something. But maybe it was one of those lifetimes that was kind of, well, you know, there are people like that. It's very rare. I've yet to meet them because I'm a mirror of everyone I meet, so everyone I meet is as crazy as I am. So I don't know people like that. Balance doesn't exist in my life. I'm trying. So that's what makes you you. So embrace that and love it and say, wow, my air and my thoughts and my funniness. Because if you have a lot of air, my daughter's a freaking comedian, man. You're funny as shit. You have a quick way. You have a quick mind. She's got a quick tongue. Like, that's what makes her her. Yes. Does she need the earth element like her mother? Yes. So we talk about bringing in the earth element and earth foods and earth people and earth professions and managing money and discipline and structure, all the earth stuff. But that's the life journey, is to learn that so that we can achieve that self-mastery at some age, when we're older.
I mean, it would benefit her well.
Of course.
Rather than being a psychologist for adults who are so more serious, she could be more with the kids.
Oh, she wants to be kids. She needs to be more
That
adults.
energy would really want them to talk versus adults. Like, adults are lit. What are you saying?
I do adults because I need to grow up.
Yeah.
I was saying to Yvette before, if I did children, I would be so mad all the time because I would want to take the kids home and tell the parents are doing it all wrong because I'm better and my ego and all my bullshit. Because in my theory, it's parents do your work so your kids don't have to. Do your freaking work, man. Your kid is a reflection of your shit that you haven't fixed. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I would not be able to be like that with children. I would just want to nurture. Plus, I have a Cancer moon, so I would want to mother and mother and mother. So I work it by doing adults. Now, my daughter wants to do children. She actually started yesterday at a new school. And I told her, I think as you get older, you're probably going to go to adults because you're going to realize that, not that you can't help the kid. Of course, you can love and nurture the kid. And people that work with kids, amen.
She has this destiny that she's like, I can do it because my mom did it.
If
Yeah.
anything, she should go for, like, I would say high schoolers, not really the elementary middle ones, because they're not.
That could be too. Teenagers.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
19.
Yeah. And
like
people with a lot of air
Yeah.
work well with teens too.
Yeah.
Because teens are quick, teens have ideas, teens want to change the system. They have social issues and activism and all that. So yeah, you're very right. So that's how we help people. Explain that they're exactly who they're supposed to be. That this breakdown explains their personality, and give them the Ayurveda. You can go on Google and you can do a Prakriti test to see if they have Vata, Pitta, Kapha. It's going to be the same breakdown of the elements. You could tell them to do the Meyers Briggs. It's going to be the same thing. Or you can do this with them, for them. But this you can do on everybody, and you only need the person's birthday. Because the degree of the sun doesn't change, and the elements don't change dependent on the time. So other stuff, you're going to need your exact time and your friends and family's exact time, but for this, you don't. And this is a tool that's super, super valuable, because when the client understands that they're exactly who they're supposed to be, there's something like validating in that. Yes, of course there's things to change, and that's the purpose of the lifetime. Yeah, you missed the mark. We're working towards, becoming the sun. We're working towards our divine spark. We're working towards self-mastery. But hopefully Joy and I are closer than the younger ones in the group, hopefully, but not necessarily true. But as we get older and older and older, we start to sort of appreciate the nuances of ourselves, of our personality, the gifts that those things, those elements give us. And then, of course, integrate the missing elements in different ways. I had to figure out, I was married to an accountant. Okay, talk about the earth element. When we divorce, I have to assume my own books. So that's the earth element. I'm not going to have an Excel spreadsheet and 50 bank accounts the way he did. I can't. So I had to, within my nature, my limited earth, I figured PayPal was going to be the best thing for me. And so all my clients pay me PayPal. When I go to my accountant at the beginning of the year, I bring her the breakdown. It's simple. I had to find a way that it worked for me. But I knew I had to do my own books. I had to bring in my earth element. I have to find how it works for me. That's why this idea of becoming your brother, or your sister, or your mother, or your father, or your friend, or your lover. No, we're all individuals. Even people that have the exact same elemental breakdown, someone exactly with my same elements has a different birthday. Let's say that they are a Pisces. They're born on a different day of Pisces, so they might not be Pisces Scorpio, they might be Pisces Pisces. Already that's a change. Let's say that they're a Pisces Scorpio with all the same breakdown of elements. They have different oppositions and squares. There's something always different about you. So yes, we're all the same. We have the same elements, just like we have the same psychological organs, just like we have the same physical organs. But our shadow aspects are different, our stories are different, our makeup of those organs and elements are different. So where did we get this idea that we have to all be the same? Now, developmentally, yes, there are phases. Children walk at a certain age, talk at a different age. The tendency to get married, I'm speaking astrologically, when Saturn returns 28 to 30, makes you want to have a career, have a mortgage, get married. Those things are generalized because they're in the collective unconscious, but that doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. And people really beat themselves up because they don't know the nuances of who they are. And they're comparing to their family, their friends, society, TV, Instagram. I mean, you are you. That's why I say to everybody I read for, this is you on a piece of paper. How amazing to have this piece of paper that says it's exactly what you're supposed to be going through at this exact moment. I have twins. They have the same chart. They're 1 minute apart, so very, very small changes, nothing major. There's two theories. These are my theories. They're gonna live out experiences in a different way. Okay, so they're not necessarily, for instance, last year when I got re-diagnosed, they both had something called Mars Moon. Mars Moon could be one representation, your mother got cancer, which is exactly what happened. So, and with the breast, the moon. They both had that. Now, how did they live it out? That has to do with level of consciousness. Nobody can determine your level of consciousness. That is free will. Only you can make that choice. So I can give you options and suggestions of how you're going to live that out, but I don't know. So I give the client suggestions, this house, this sign, this is what it can look like. And then they come back to me and say, oh, I lived it out this way. And I'm always fascinated with how many variations the psyche comes up with. The second thing, and this is the new book that I'm writing on Dethroning Olympus that I started teaching you guys the other day, and Samantha chimed in very beautifully that day. The children are the shadow aspects or the unintegrated aspects of the parents. So what happens? I believe in something called the system. I told you it's one of the rules in the individual system, in my new Heros Gamos system of the relationship, and the same with the new book on family systems. There's only 100% in the system. So what my theory states is that everybody in the system, so let's just call it mom, dad, Stephen, Spencer, Sophia, which are my 5, okay? My ex-husband, myself, and the 3 kids. They are going to be the shadow of us. The twins will show different shadow aspects. So it's just like having 3 separate kids. Just because they're born together doesn't necessarily mean. The children subconsciously split up the parental crap and show it back to the parents. Twins or no twins, 1 child or 16 children. There's only 100% in the system. Now, I went a step further in my new model. I started teaching you guys that the other day. I now have a workbook, and we'll go deeper into that, which is when you find out your family number, when you do the numerology of when your parents were married to when you were born, and you figure out your family number. So most of my kids are number 1. So they're going to share the role of the number one child in the system, but they're going to live it out differently because they're still responsible of showing us back our shadow. So these are sort of like subconscious negotiations that children and parents meet with one another. It's kind of like the unmet need. The parent doesn't say to the kid, I have an unmet need that my mother didn't love me or that I never learned English, so you need to be the communicator in the family. No, your mom says, hey, I need a translator. Your brother got in trouble at school and I don't speak English. Can you translate for me? And you're thrown into that role. That was decided way before. Astrology, I said to you before, is birth to death. So you don't have to believe in reincarnation. You don't have to believe in past lives. The chart is for this lifetime. But we have charts that are prenatal charts that I can see everything that your mother lived through her pregnancy with you. That explains exactly the traumas that you have in this lifetime. I just call it conception. At the moment of conception, you got the subconscious mind. But that comes from those charts. I mean, this is valuable information. This is a ton of stuff. So if I talk to somebody, my new family systems model, I have the parents share a little bit about the conception, the pregnancy, and the birth story so the child has more detail about their life. But if your parents are dead or you're adopted or you don't have access or the parents don't remember, well, you could still do the model without it. But the more info you have about how your subconscious develops, in my theory, the better for you to see. So there was some negotiation in the womb. Some people call it soul contracts before they even come to the womb. But if you just want to, in the womb, because it's water, that's the transmission. That's some of what I'm going to talk about in that shadow side of the love languages next in a couple of weeks, is what transmission did you get in the womb? What message did you get of love? Of course you're going to live it out. So the twins are simply splitting the shadow aspect just like they do with their sister. And then the level of consciousness is going to decide how they play that out. They might have both breakups. Let's say they both break up because of the same transit, but one plays it out differently than the other. Or one breaks up with the girlfriend and the other one just fights with the girlfriend. The planets are still there dictating the storyline, but the person has free will. We have agency. We're not here being struck down by some ridiculousness. Any questions? Okay. Nicole, any questions? I'm going to take this off to do attendance.